What's up, everyone? Welcome back to StrangeCast, Player One vs. World's Life is Strange podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adnan. My co-host Adam is here. Adam, you here?
I'm here. It's me, Adam.
You're here. Do you know what? As well,
I'm
I just
here.
realised I know what you're going to do for Spread the Arts as well.
Well, of
Yes,
course, yeah.
I know what he's going to do. I just clocked onto that as well. So either way, you'll enjoy that.
Yeah.
What he's going to pick. But either way, as always, we are back. This is episode 45, I believe. 45.
Yes.
Slowly climb to 50. But as always, you can watch these episodes on YouTube, which you might be watching us from now with the video version. And we're also available on podcast services. So you can go and check us out on there. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on everything. Spotify is a video version. We have over 120 plus followers. So thank you very much to everyone who's following the podcast on there. Stay tuned. Obviously, we're still working on getting this, more things going forward. It's been a bit of a slow period of the year. But as always, thank you for the support on there. And also as well, if you are on YouTube, please do consider dropping subscribe, turn on notifications, share the video, and like as well. It helps us build our channel. It helps you support the channel. It helps keep up to date with our channel as well. So please do support us in any way possible.
Mm-hmm.
But we're back, Adam. A lot of things have actually happened, which I kind of was surprised. Like,
Yeah, we actually had news.
Yes, we did. Yeah, one of the news pieces I wanted to do is almost like a separate segment at one point, but I think time schedule probably wouldn't have worked, and I think it's probably going to take up quite a lot of time as well because there's a lot to be said. Kind of came out left field. But shall we start with our first piece of news?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so this came out, I think, just not long after we dropped the podcast episode, and it was that the Expanse Telltale Series Episode 1 arrives this July across Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So we're going to Eurogamer. Victoria Kennedy writes, Episode 1 of the Expanse Telltale Series now has a firm release date of 27th July from its previous summer release window. Following the launch of the first episode, the game's following 4 episodes will then be released every 2 weeks, with the developer promising an Expanse experience, quote-unquote, like never before, end quote. The Expanse, a Telltale series, has been developed by Telltale and Deck 9, Life is Strange True Colors, and serves as a prequel to the popular sci-fi TV show. It features Kamina Drummer as the main protagonist. Drummer works on the Artemis spaceship, and as you expect from a Telltale game, players will be tasked with making some tough decisions as she and her scavenger crew negotiate their way through the edge of the belt. Those familiar with the Expanse already will recognize the Drummer. Not only is she the main character from the Amazon Prime series, but she's also portrayed by the same actress, Kara G. On returning to the role of Drummer for the prequel game, G previously stated it was an quote-unquote interesting, end quote, thing to explore the character's more vulnerable sides, as quote-unquote, by the time we meet her in the series, they've been cauterized, end quote. If you are interested in pre-ordering the game, you'll be able to do so from the 1st of June. There will be 2 editions available, the standard and the deluxe. If you plump for the deluxe option, you will also receive the game's DLC, although at the time of writing, the content of this DLC has not been announced. Additionally, if you pre-order on either PlayStation or through the Epic Game Store, you will get 24 hours early access. So that was from Eurogamer. And then Telltale also put out a little blog post on their website. They put it's official. The Expanse Telltale series launches 27th of July for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC via the Epic Game Store. The following 4 episodes will be released 2 weeks apart after the first one drops on the 27th of July. The show us some key art as well for the game. Pre-orders for both the standard edition, which is $39 in the US, and also the deluxe edition, which will be $49, will go live on the 1st of June 2023. And those of you who pre-order will receive 24-hour early access, while players who purchase the deluxe edition will also receive future DLC. They put, wait, there's DLC going here. You heard that right. You'll just have to wait a bit longer for more details there. So yeah, that was that, and I can't see anything else in here. No, nothing else in the blog post. So that's our news. So we have an official release date for this collaboration between Deck 9 and Telltale. Very fitting, because I feel like the next month, early June, I plan on starting The Expanse. This is my TV show that I'm going to go to next. I want to sit down and try and binge through it all now before we get before this game comes out, and we have plenty of time now, so I can kind of commit to it. But Yeah, exciting times. This will be the first return of Telltale since the collapse and reformation and restructuring of it. And obviously, it's Deck Nine's first project since True Colors, so exciting.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm more interested in the price point of. So what I see from Telltale's website, standard edition being 40 and deluxe edition being 45. So
Yeah,
it's only a $5 difference to get the deluxe edition to get DLC. And I'm just like, but you don't really see that too often. Like that little of a money difference of just $5. You would think like 40 and then the extended edition's like 50, or like 55. There's always like that like caveat there, but it's a $5 difference. So I'm just like, how much here's my big question. How much will a DLC cost, by itself?
must be
You
like
know,
$9 or $10 or something like that.
probably
I
9 or
imagine
10.
they'll probably like put it at $10 or something. I imagine us like as a separate standalone if you don't buy it as part of the deluxe edition. Like I've liked Telltale stuff in the past, like DLC, like the essentially the add-on, which was 400 Days for The Walking Dead, was really enjoyable.
Yes.
I thought that was really good, and even like I know Wavelengths, we had criticism about Wavelengths for like DLC for True Colors, but still was good. So I think like $5, I would be willing to part ways for $5. And it's like as you said, because like the price as well, like we don't see that with games now, like because obviously they're getting charged higher. I think like I recently saw on the news where Sega was like saying that we're going to start charging $70 for games now. So it's like incrementally every studio is now following that path. And then because of the PlayStation Showcase, if you watched it, Alan Wake 2 was there, and
Yes.
Remedy confirmed in a blog post saying that they're not going to release it physically, so it's just going to be released digitally because they want to keep the prices down of the game, which is quite like a bit of a juxtaposition from what's happening. Because there's a lot of, like, for example, when we talk about True Colors, like a lot of criticism was leveled towards True Colors because it went kind of like triple A. It was like really like well built, but then it's like the price went up as well. And it's kind of like when you look at the price quality, and it's like compared to like all the other games that were offered in terms of like Life is Strange 1 is a complete season, and even Life is Strange 2 is a complete season pass. I feel like the quality of it in terms of the money didn't really match what you were getting, and I think it's a hard conversation to be had about like price and quality you get with a video game, because it's like I don't expect like 150 hours like Valhalla to be my money's worth. I expect just good quality of like 15, 16 hours, really well built, and not kind of like be kind of games like the Lord of the Rings Gollum game, which has been getting critically slammed. If you've seen it,
I knew that was going to be garbage too. Like,
well,
I saw. Go for it.
No. I want you to go for it.
No, I remember seeing concept art for it, and I remember like hearing what the game's about, and I'm just like, this is gonna be kind of. No, I wasn't gonna say like this is gonna be a garbage game. I was like, this does not sound like it's gonna turn out well, and yeah,
I've seen some pretty brutal comments. I think like one of them was like, "It's nice for them to still be making PS2 games." And I'm like,
damn.
I'm like, damn. But it's funny though, because like I've seen people now like viral tweets circling around where people like, is this the new trend where it's like we release a bad game, we've already got a preempted statement to say we're sorry for this, and then we're going to release loads of patches. But I'm like, that's what you
Dom the
accepted.
Bomb said that. Yeah, so it's funny. He pointed out I saw what he said on Twitter. I'm like, damn, dude, like that's a good point. I want to bring up like which games he brought up. That was like this. Oh, where? Man, he tweets so freaking much, dude. What the heck? Dom, come on. Okay, here we go. So he said 2023 gaming, release broken games, wait about a day or two, make an apology statement, release statement, and promise patches and fixes. And the games he put out was Lord of the Rings Gollum, Jedi Survivor, Forspoken, and Last of Us fans. Last of Us Part 1 for PC. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like it's so freaking true.
Yeah,
But
I didn't see his tweet. I saw like a couple of others that were doing something similar to that, and it's like it doesn't surprise me. It seems to be what people have accepted, and I'm like, when you kind of get that, that sets the standard, the norm, which people will kind of like go forward with. But no, like on the actual point, this Expanse, yeah, it's very exciting to see it happen. I think like it's kind of been a bit overshadowed with like recent news, which we'll kind of move on to our next topic. It'll probably be quite a bit meatier, but it is exciting. I saw like the preview event that they had. Cheers Deck Nine. We could have been invited there, but like I'm not going to hold any grudges.
yeah, I
but
will.
no, like I saw, no, I saw the event they had, and it was like it's kind of like It's still for me. Like I need to. I'm like obviously, as I said, like my plan is to watch Expanse, and then I kind of will give more weight to it because it's such a weird. For me, it's like a weird thing to adapt into a Telltale game. It's like it's not even
Yes.
like mainstream. And when I say mainstream, like everyone knows it. It's not like a Star Wars or like a Game of Thrones, or it's like a Batman or something like they've done in the past. It's very different. The Expanse. It's almost
Yeah.
like for me a little bit like Life is Strange. It has like a crowd, and that's about it. And it's like how are you going to really get it
Yeah.
out to a lot more people? But hey, it's a prequel, so maybe it does appeal to people. But yeah, nonetheless, as well, it's just good that we have a release date. I was uncertain this game was going to come out in summer. When they kept giving us a release window, I wasn't sure that we were going to see the Expanse until like maybe even
Yeah.
late August or something. But it seems like we have one now, so that's
Yeah,
exciting.
and I'll definitely get the I'm definitely gonna get the deluxe edition because if it's only $5 difference and I get DLC with it plus 24-hour early access, that's something I can get behind. But like the Quarry with its deluxe edition, you get like in-game cosmetics, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
I'm good. I don't
yeah.
need that.
I've been
But
looking at that for Final Fantasy 16 myself because I will probably buy that at release, and it's like I'm looking at the differences between the editions, and I'm like, yeah, it's like I don't really want to dress Clive up in like this kind of outfit for like
no,
for
exactly.
$10 increase. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not
But
doing
for
that.
$5 and get DLC, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go for a deluxe edition. Like that. That's a
Yeah,
good value. I like that. You know.
yeah, it's a better return investment. So um, we will keep you updated on the Expanse as we keep going forward. Obviously, I imagine we'll hear more and more going forward. So nonetheless, should we move into our next piece of news?
Yes.
Oh yes, so this was a big piece of news. This was one I was considering doing just on the YouTube channel as a separate standalone kind of like video, so we could talk about. But I thought, you know what, we'll just wait now for StrangeCast. But it's big news and it was kind of unexpected and has kind of caught people off guard. So I'm going to go to GameDeveloper.com first because they actually have a statement here which adds to the story. The story is Life is Strange dev Deck Nine
Mm-hmm.
Games hit with staff layoffs. So Deck Nine's round of layoffs came months ahead of its upcoming release, the Expanse Telltale Series. So this was on May 22nd. So this was, yeah, so it's very recent by the time we were still recording as well. So on Friday, 19th of May, developer Deck Nine developer Deck Nine laid off an indeterminate I was like intermediate now, indeterminate number of staff.
Yeah.
Narrative designer Elizabeth Balu broke the news on Twitter, saying several quote unquote brilliant, kind, and talented workers end quote will let go. She further revealed that narrative leads elected to eliminate their own positions rather than cut their lower level staff. Um, she added, and I quote, the leads on my team were given swords and chose to fall on them, laying themselves off instead of choosing among the rest of us. I've never seen anyone in games do something that metal, and I hope I never have to again, end quote. One member of the departing narrative team later collaborated Balu's statement, saying she quote unquote stepped away voluntarily, end quote. A lead's first responsibility is to their team. Oh, sorry, not quote unquote. A lead's first responsibility is to their team, and that was the best way to keep most of my people clear of the layoff wave. End quote. So they put so just a bit of explaining for Deck Nine, but they put in here as well. Update: Deck Nine told game developer that last week it quote unquote was forced to lay off 30 amazing people. End quote. In its comment, it gave no reason for the layoffs, which studios often provide, but
Yeah.
simply stated that those affected were quote unquote talented people who did nothing wrong, end quote. And they added another quote: we wish them the very best in their careers and would love to work with them again. So pretty surprising news, caught me a little bit off guard. Also kind of was expected because I've kind of like warned people for months that stuff like this is going to kind of happen. The economy is not very good, the climate's not very
Yeah.
good, etc. But just kind of give you a bit of context here. So I got a handful of tweets from people who worked at Deck
Mm-hmm.
Nine, still work there, might be being laid off. Trying to deal as sensitive as possible because I don't want to be trashing anyone whilst they've lost their job because it's not the nicest thing in the world, and I have no reason to do that. So this is Pete Imbesi on Twitter who put, "This is such a bummer. Layoffs of any kind are obviously terrible, but Deck Nine has had a stellar track record since their rebrand a few years back. It really sucks to even see a studio that makes good games that at least seem to sell well can't avoid layoffs." So very interesting comment there as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
as I said, there's a lot to be picked apart on here. We've got Cringy Ikari on Twitter. who I can't believe I remember, was this the person that said it was Izzy to you in the tweet?
Yes, you did.
Yes, so I can't remember her name because I'm just looking at Twitter handle, but she was Izzy in True Colors, or did the VO work for it, which it feels quite strange, obviously, seeing as we just done True Colors as no, sorry, the prose novel. We've done Steph's story, so kind of strange seeing that. But she tweeted saying, "As of today, I made the decision to part ways with Deck Nine Games, which means I'm currently unemployed. If your project is looking for a Nebula-nominated WGA Award and Peabody Award-winning lead writer, narrative director, I'd love to chat. Now I'm going to have a little cry and a little nap. Please don't hold it against me if it takes me a minute to get back to you all. To be clear, because some folks expressed confusion privately, yes, there were layoffs at Deck 9. Yes, I stepped away voluntarily. A lead's first responsibility is their team, and that was the best way to keep most of my people clear of the layoff wave. So I'm going to another one, and apologies again, just going for all these that I found. This was Rain on Twitter. It says layoffs suck, but hey, back on the grind. It was great to work at Deck Nine Games, but I'm looking for a tool/engineer programmer position. Here's my portfolio link. So someone else has got laid. Corwin, who's on the Deck Nine mocap team, who worked with Webb on True Colors, as we've spoken about on this podcast. But lost many of my friends due to layoffs. If anyone sees an applicant from Deck Nine, hire them. They love and support you. They love and support you. Feel them. The love and support you feel from these folks is incomparable. I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. I'm brokenhearted, but I'm excited to see which lucky studios find themselves working with these incredible devs next. Sorry, I'm just having like a meltdown here a little bit. Let me just quickly go to another one. Apologies, the internet is just now starting to take its toll on me. Give me a second. Try and load this one up. It's had its number now. Do you have can you load up the next one?
Yeah, from Elizabeth Below.
Yeah, please.
Yes, so I have Elizabeth Below. I believe I'm saying that right, but she quote tweets her own tweet by saying, "Today, many brilliant and kind, talented coworkers at Deck 9 were laid off, and my heart is breaking for them." She quote tweets by saying, "To elaborate, the leads on my team were given swords and chose to fall on them." Like we read from the article, laying off themselves instead of choosing amongst the rest. I've never seen anyone do something that metal. And then she goes on a thread by saying, "When we started, they promised to protect us, and they fucking stuck to that, even though it meant losing their jobs. Extreme BNE, big naturals energy, nice, was shown today. I've seen some rampant speculation floating around, so let me say again, I am only speaking about leads from my team, narrative, and not talking about any other teams or leads. News outlets, please stop saying I broke the layoffs. I'm far and away from the first one and posted about them. I'm not a spokesman or PR or for Tech 9. I wasn't laid off myself. But if you want more information, contact the company and the people are laid off. This is just really bad journalistic practice."
So yeah, and then the final one I got here is from Mallory Littleton, who put, "Well, it breaks my heart to write this tweet, but as of August, I will no longer be with Deck 9 Games. My team at D9 is truly the most talented, supportive, and hard-working group of individuals I have ever had the pleasure of working with, and I will miss them with all of me. If you know any of the game, if you know of any games industry gigs that may work for me or any of the other former Deck Niners affected by the layoff, send them my way. Let's help these folk land on their feet." So yeah, that's all the tweets. So there was a lot more. There's a lot more on LinkedIn. We were doing kind of like a lot of it snooping. As I said, very unexpected. Pretty wild it happened. I do feel sorry for a lot of these people. Obviously, no one wants to lose their job. No one wants to be put in this position. But crazy that this has happened as well. And it's like, I think we were talking not long ago, like, on other podcast episodes where Deck Nine was heavily recruiting because it seemed like there's a big recruitment drive to get loads of developers in. It seemed like there was more ambitions to keep pushing and building more games. And then on top of that, we were talking about who could lead the Life is Strange series. Felice works at the studio. We were kind of like saying that she could have been like a Life is Strange director in the future. I would have pegged Mallory to be one of them as well because she's like been there since the BTS days, and she's been there for so
Yes.
long. It's crazy. It's like you kind of expect her naturally to progress to that role. Um, and then also, generally speaking, like, just at the time as well, this came out when the Expanse's release date was announced, around that time. So it's like you have a game coming out from Deck Nine, and it's like all of a sudden 30 people are being laid off. Absolutely wild thing to happen around that time. And very admirable, first, if anything, very admirable for the Deck Nine devs who fell on their swords, especially
Mhm.
from the lead positions, because they didn't have to do that. Um,
Yeah.
and they took the blow from it. But
Yeah, not
yeah.
only that, but like when Elizabeth Below, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but like you said, I have never seen that in games industry do that. I've never seen that in any job, period, where like lead people are just like, oh, we need to lay people off. It's gonna be me. And I've
Mhm.
never seen that, like, ever. Because like again, like leads are usually like selfish people. They're just like, well, I gotta look out for me. I have the good paycheck. This lower level person, like, no. But no, it just seems like Deck Nine not only was a place of community, but like this is evident of that they were looking out for each other. You know, the leads like took the jobs away from themselves, and some people voluntarily took themselves out, just for protection. And I've never seen that in any job,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like I've the first time I've heard this kind of happen in my history of being in the industry. I don't really remember any devs in like senior positions taking kind of like the sword and like falling on it as well. So it's like it's wild, but it's just crazy that's happened, because it's like there was like a lot of
with no
speculation.
reason given.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the other thing. So it's like we don't have any explanation for why the studio's releasing all these people. Like, I kept warning people, like, time and time again, if you've listened to this podcast for the last couple of months, which I'm obviously very thankful for if you have, like, I keep talking about the climate of the situation. I've talked about how there's been articles like on games industry based saying that the video game industry needs to brace itself. Like, things are getting worse, like, and I don't want to make this political, whatever. It's like, Germany fell into a recession this week. There's kind of conversations about the US still kind of like teetering where it's at. They need to sort their debt ceiling out first, but like, there's issues there.
Hmm.
And there's like the UK is now being forecasted to fall into recession next year instead of this year. It's like things are still very unstable. Nothing's kind of like getting back to normal life because this has happened. So it's like it's going to affect everything. So it's not even like those kind of issues are just normally affecting that. It's going to affect game schedules. It's going to affect all kinds of things. And these are games that have schedules that have come out after COVID, so they've just been recovering and kind of getting back on a certain path. But yeah, it's just crazy that there was no explanation from Deck Nine why it's happened. It's probably because at this point we kind of have to speculate. Where it's like maybe it's like a bigger recruitment drive than expected. It maybe they can't afford the costs of it as well, and what the projects are. Like, there's been Reset Era. Reset Era, is it Reset Era the website called? The one that replaced NeoGAF. Reset Era.
Resetera, Reset Era, something like
That's
that.
one. Yeah, that's one. Yeah. Um, there's like people and they're speculating, saying like, what happens to the next Life is Strange? Is it like still in development? Is it not? It's like, who's working on it? Like, we don't know what happens going forward in terms of like the future of Life is Strange now as well. Like, I've spoken about this repeatedly. Like, there's not really clear sales numbers for True Colors. Like, we never really got that. We don't really know how well it
Hmm.
did in terms of like, because obviously the production value went up massively. It wasn't a cheaper game to make. It obviously looked higher end, quote unquote higher end, because they're putting more budget towards it. So it's like Square Enix has not really been as clear as, oh, this is a really successfully selling title. They've kind of like mentioned it in parts, but I've never seen full sales statistics or anything that kind of says Life is Strange is this kind of really massive success. Um, there's been conversations, like, people keep talking to me like on in the comments of like videos, and like telling us it's like, it's almost like a lightning in the bottle moment. Life is Strange, it had its moment with like Max and Chloe. It's never really captured that same kind of euphoria. And Max and Chloe have always been kind of mascots of the series. More people have an affinity towards them than like other iterations or kind of like the evolution of the series. It's kind of like, if you saw a sequel to that or something like that, then it would probably drive a lot more money and revenue. So it's like they're kind of like, it kind of like spells me a big well, it kind of spells me like a really worrying situation about what happens to the next Life is Strange. Like, Deck Nine will probably have been working on it. Is it still in development? Is it not in development? Has it changed? You have like lost loads of people. You've lost people like Mallory. Mallory's worked on the games in the series. She's one of the leads on in at Deck Nine. Then it's like, who's still working on it. You know, Felicia's like a big figure. She seems to still be at Deck Nine, from what I could tell last time I checked. So it's like all these questions start happening in my head, and it's like there was like loads of speculation. There's like forums where people were like, you know, this kind of like happens if you become like a one studio that works just on like Life is Strange, for example. This is why like Don't Nod has not attached itself just to one video game in the last 5, 6 years as well. It's wanted to evolve. That's why we see this pipeline of games coming out from Don't Nod. It's not necessarily just a Life is Strange studio anymore. It's its own studio. It has to build things going forward. So yeah, it's crazy, man. It's I just didn't expect it to happen like as abruptly as it did. And then like how many people have kind of like fallen on their swords, how many people have been like eliminated from the studio. And then what happens going forward? Like what games are going to get scrapped? What happens here? Like, you know, what other projects are they working on?
Yeah, it's just unfortunately like working in an industry like this, like any kind of arts industry, it's just volatile. You know, you don't know. Like I mean, like even more so, like the writer's strike right now. Like you don't know when you're gonna have a job or not, and they're fighting for that. But even this, like just video games in general, just like video games, writing, music, anything you're going into, that requires some arts, I guess you can say. It's just kind of like, man, who knows if you're gonna have a job the next day. Um, it's very unfortunate, but I'm just glad to see that Deck Nine had probably the best result of a layoff in terms of just like they're looking out for each other. Everybody has each other's back. Um, and it's just good to see that at least. It's not good that people got laid off. I'm not saying that. What is good is that like they're still a unit. Like they were a unit going into this, and they were a unit leaving it, and that's just like good to see a company do for each other. You know.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Like people always say, like if you work in the video game industry, there's no protection for like jobs. Like it's like you are pretty much at the mercy of what happens, especially like these. I know the amount of people who've like left studios, who've been like fired from studios, who have kind of like lost their jobs, who have had to kind of keep moving around. There's like no guarantees and protections. Like you mentioned, with the writer's strike, that's probably going to keep prolonging as well. I know SAG has gone on strike again, so that's happened again. So it's like that's probably, you know, maybe that does start affecting the video games again going into the forwards. It's like there's like a second wave of like, you know, issues that are affecting and plaguing industries at the minute. So like yeah, with Deck Nine, like I think the only thing that you can kind of take a caveat from was is like that the people who left or people who found their swords were like the who did like a really admirable thing for their people who were working underneath them, because like probably when you're in that kind of period of like redundancies, it's like you're all at the mercy of something. So it's like they protected a lot of people, so it's nice to see them do that, and I hopefully imagine that some of them land back on their feet very soon, because I imagine that a lot of studios will be eyeing up developers of those caliber. So yeah, but it's just crazy. Like this is the way that Deck Nine's kind of gone in the last couple of years and like months, especially with like when Chris Floyd left as well, and he spoke about why he left the studio. There's a Twitter thread I've said before, you know, and it, like, you know, the direction that Deck Nine were going in compared to what he felt. I don't know how sustainable it's going to be for Deck Nine going into the future. Like Life is Strange is like its core kind of like game that's attached to it at the minute. And like I have to say as well, like, you know, hypothetically speaking, if Montreal's games is anywhere near as a success as Life is Strange 1 was, then I'd say you can say goodbye to Life is Strange, because that's going to get shelved indefinitely. There's no way Square Enix is going to bankroll those games. Like I think personally speaking, I think Life is Strange is on its last legs now. I think that we
so.
might see. I think we might see one more game in the franchise, and that's me being just a little bit pessimistic. I'm just kind of like just thinking about where we're currently at with the climate of things. We'll probably see a remake in about 2 years from now,
I'd say
because that'll
so.
be the 10th
That's
anniversary.
reasonable.
Yeah, that'll happen. And if you get a little bit like annoyed with me saying that, like trust me, it's like if you haven't seen all the remakes that have been happening, like that'll get remade. Like as much
Look
as
at Last of Us. Like Last of Us got a remaster and then a remake like a couple of years later, you know?
Yeah, I kind of expect that's kind of be the thing for like Grand Theft Auto, if anything, of like Rockstar doing that, like remaking a game, but it's like it's actually Naughty Dog who did it, which, you know, I have a reservation about Naughty Dog itself as well. Anyway, but yeah, it's sad though. It's absolutely sad, and I'm like, I hope those people get back on their feet. So, We'll keep you updated with how Deck 9 goes as well, and wish them the best with things, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Next piece of news.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So this was lately added because I've just recently remembered it. So going to Twitter.
Little segue here.
Yeah, a little bit segue, and we mentioned them before as well. Don't Nod Montreal, we're going back to. Been very quiet on the front recently. We're going back because we have one El Jefe, Luc Baghadoust, the studio executive producer, tweeted saying, Don't Nod Montreal's hiring. If you're a talented animator and want to work on our games like the ones Don't Nod Michelle and I have worked on, please apply to join our team. So I don't usually do this because obviously they are recruiting. We've spoken about it before. And if you go on the website, link that Luke posts as well, there's other jobs being advertised, including a QA tester, technical animator, other positions. But I just wanted to pick up on some things. I said to Adam, there were certain things that I noticed here, which was said in here, the description, where it was like, what you'll be doing is reporting to the Montreal Studios animation director. Your role will be to create the keyframe animations and mocap of characters, gameplay, and cinematic, as well as implement these assets in the engine system, Unreal Engine, for our next narrative project. Your mission will be to collaborate with your teammates across disciplines to deliver engaging narrative sequences, writers, designers, camera artists, lighters, collaborate with your teammates to create gameplay systems, designer and programs, work with motion capture data and keyframe to craft cinematic sequences, deliver quality facial animations that showcase the emotion of a scene, work with work with motion capture data and keyframes to craft gameplay animations and meet production deadlines by maintaining open communication with your lead and seeking feedback. So it was just a couple of like little things that I wanted to talk about in there, because like we've already kind of spoken about the fact that they are doing mocap. There was that photo of them doing whether at the mocap studio. I don't know if it's like facial capture mocap. I don't know if they're going to be doing that, because like they might just be full body. It might be just body capture, like they did with the first Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2. But it kind of like gives us a little bit of insight, a bit more of like in terms of that this project is, and obviously as well they're working with Unreal Engine as well, so it kind of gives you an insight which engine they're using. But it says to me like it gives me time that there's still quite a bit of time on this game before we see anything at the moment. It just seems to be it seems to be quite far out. There's no rush either. Like Don't Nod has 2 games coming out this year. 2 games. They have Harmony and Banishes that have officially been announced and kind of will get release date. So this isn't going to fit. There's 6 games in the pipeline. It's like this might not see the light of day until late 2024, if not 2025. Could be. I don't know how far out is at the development at the minute, but I thought I'd just bring it up because I thought that the kind of like definite confirmation that there's about the animation, the motion capture, and then kind of like obviously it seems to be hitting the tones that people love about their games anyway, like Luc and Michelle's, where it's like, you know, the emotion in the scenes is kind of like we're creating very disciplined narrative sequences. So I'm obviously very excited as always. And if you have anywhere near the abilities of this, do consider applying because it's there.
Yeah. And if Luke is listening to this podcast, you know, if you're ever looking for a sound designer, maybe a musician to come aboard on Don't Nod Montreal, you know where to find one. I'm just saying, you know, just slide in DMs. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that you know where to find a person, is what I'm saying.
A person.
A person. Nobody in particular, but a person. Can I animate? No. It's like that. But it's good though, man. Like it's good that they're getting their pieces together. They're getting they're like slowly progressing through this, and I think because it's like you said, it's a no rush kind of situation. Well, like I'm sure there's a rush because there are investors, you know.
Yeah.
But it's awesome to see that like, hey, we're still recruiting, we're still building our team, and it just tells me that this is going to be like a really banger game. Honestly, it's behind some of the greatest game developers out there. So we shall see. And I hopefully a good animator gets this job, you know, gets employed and follows their dream.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm like on their website, don't know, because I've clicked off onto it. And it says here as well, there's 40 plus talents at the studio, one project. I can't read French, but there's like little things here as well. They've got like the image of the, I'm trying to show you.
I can read French.
They got the video game image there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get my ring light in there. Got the video game image there, and then we've also got a picture of them here as well. So obviously Michelle, Luke.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's Jean-Luc here. Little
Maybe.
mask. I'm gonna assume it is after last fiasco, and that I feel like I know that person.
Oh, here we go. He's going to be cocky now.
No, I'm not even gonna try that. No.
Yeah,
There's,
go
there's
for
a
it.
woman.
Say who that is.
No, I'm not going for that. I'm
Yeah.
not going to try it. I always seem to mess up on those, so I'm not going to try that. Let me see if I can send you. I'm gonna give you the option to be me. And
That person. So we're saying the guy in the white shirt is Jean-Luc,
yeah,
and we're finding out who the person sitting down is.
the lady.
That person is a worker at Don't Nod.
Well,
she is doing her job at Don't Nod.
that was a cop out.
Well, she doesn't even work at Don't Nod. She's just like there, just like in an internship, like visit. It's just like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I ain't taking guess. I usually get quite well. Most of the time, it's usually wrong, so I'm not taking guess for that one. But I do feel like I've recognized that person though. What am I going to say?
Yes.
No, but it seems like we're still far out from the Don't Nod Montreal game, so fingers crossed. In the future, we'll see more. I imagine we'll get more shared details in there.
Oh yeah. Oh, they have a gym. Oh boy, they have a gym.
There's benefit in the job. So if you can catch up on 5 years of experience, Adam, at this point, you can apply and get working for the gym as well.
I know. Like, why can't it have like a useful skill, like animating, instead I have music? Nobody wants that. And cooking. There's no jobs in that.
Yeah, but you got a full endorsement from Alejandro on your paella, so that's
I did get a full endorsement. Now he didn't taste it, but he said it looks good.
Yeah, that's that in itself. A man of that caliber, you get that level of endorsement. It goes a long way. By the way, very excited still, nonetheless. I wanted to bring that up because there's a little animation. We're getting little caveats, we're getting little details, and I imagine in the next couple of months we'll keep hearing more. So stay tuned. So. We'll cover that. Anyway, next piece of news.
Yes.
Okay, so sticking on to Don't Nod. Interesting piece of news. I didn't even realize this was actually happening, but it's quite nice that they are. So, Gerda, A Flame in Winter, receives Liva's story DLC. So it's Don't Nod Entertainment and developer Bird Island, which is obviously PortaPlay before that, have released a new DLC storyline for Gerda, A Flame in Winter, as players can experience Liva's story. This particular story puts you in the shoes of a resistance leader as you see her fight the powers that be after her husband was wrongfully arrested. The team also released the Mod Stand bundle, which includes both the main game and the newer DLC in one perfect package. You can read more about both below. The Mod Stand bundle was created to showcase two very different women's experiences of World War II, and to tell two kinds of stories, those of Gerda and Liva. Gerda has lived a quiet life as a nurse and is pushed into involvement with the resistance by the Gestapo's arrest of her husband, and Anders. She is compassionate and tries to avoid conflict where possible. Liva, on the other hand, has been a member of the resistance for some time. After a failed mission, her team regroups in Tinglev, where she will have to stand up and lead them to their next fight. Liva's story offers players an alternative look at war through the eyes of a different kind of woman, a resistance leader. Desperate and discouraged after a failed mission, Liva's team has to regroup, patch up, and hit the enemy again using sabotage, infiltration, spying, and even assassination. Opposite to Gerda's emphatic approach, Liva is not afraid of using violence and often walks the thin line between justice and revenge. Players will have to carefully balance her fury towards the enemy, duty towards her mission and country, and care for her teammates. The events of Liva's story take place in the weeks leading up to Anders' arrest and the beginning of Gerda's journey to save him. Each story is a standalone narrative, and each of them sheds light on the other, so players can choose to play them in whichever order they wish to. So that was the news from there. Adam, first off, have you played Gerda?
I have not, and I was looking up reviews on Steam, and it has mostly positive reviews, very
Mm.
positive reviews. But I have
See,
not played it.
I would actually be very willing to pick it up now with this DLC package, which is quite nice. I feel like that's kind of more of an incentive. It adds a little bit more to it.
Yeah, it
Not
looks
that it
like
already,
the DLC package is only $25.
yeah, like not necessarily. It's like a that I wouldn't have picked up in the first place. I feel like
Sure.
my main reason for not playing Gerda at the minute has been that I got rid of my Switch. I've kind of like regret getting rid of my Switch now because some of the games that are coming out for Switch, for example, like this, I would love to have
Yes.
played on my Switch, which is annoying that I don't have it. But
And
um,
Harmony.
and Harmony, yeah. So Harmony's coming
Yes.
out. You've had even like when I played Oxenfree on my PS4, I wish I would have played it on the Switch because it felt more natural as like kind of a Switch game, if anything.
Yes.
Um, but no, it's kind of cool that this game has continued to see support from Don't Nod. It's obviously a very low budget game. It's very from a very small independent studio, but it's kind of
Mhm.
like Don't Nod it has that time and place to maneuver to kind of get this kind of content being made and supporting it. It's obviously not going to see like a series of expansion packs, but it's just kind of like a little extra thing, and they can kind of, as you said, as they said, you can bundle it together and try and get more sales for Gerda. And I like that. Don't This is where we see Don't Nod kind of like thriving now. I think in the next couple of years because like there's been so much time spent restructuring, reorganizing, putting games into productions, working with new studios, and becoming a publisher. So I think like the next couple of years, you're going to start seeing Don't Nod really emerge as kind of like this as a studio that's kind of like having a lot more hands-on with video games. It's going to be publishing them,
Mm.
it's going to be producing them. So it's like now kind of like the wait is kind of being rewarded with like what we get as content. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for that, and I like the fact that they did this as well. Like I love World War II games, but I like that they're not. It's not necessarily a pew pew shooter kind of one. It's like more of
Yeah.
a like I don't know why I did the
I don't
this
know
is why you
either,
should be
but
watching. Well, watch the video version for this reason. You'll see me do my little pew pew gun
Pew,
kind of
pew.
thing. But no, it's kind of like nice that it's just, that their philosophy seems to work with other publishers as well. Like there's a narrative kind of like feel towards it.
And
Um,
it looks like it's only 7 hours long. Like it's a 7 hour game.
I'm happy with that. I'm like
Yeah.
more than happy with that. When you get older as well, you realize that time is like of the essence. It's like I can't put
Yes.
too many hours into games because it's like
When I
if I
see
told you,
like a 7 hour game, like young people, like, why would I play that game? As an older person, I'm like, beautiful. That's
yeah,
beautiful. Like,
I recently finished Yakuza Zero, just the main story, and my
nice.
gameplay time at the minute is 200 hours.
Damn.
Yeah, I've been playing it a lot. I've been like just doing like extra side missions. I've left the controller on. Do you like to make extra cash and stuff on the side whilst
Oh
it's
yeah.
happening? But it's like
Yeah.
200 hours because it's a long. I've been playing for a long time. So it's like I'm like, damn, it's like
Yeah.
that's a lot of 200 hours that I don't have time for anymore.
Bro,
Um,
yeah.
so I'm very happy with 7 hours for that. But yeah, it's a good build. Good. I think
Yes.
like if you didn't tell someone it was like made by a different studio, you just said Don't Nod is working with someone on it, you'd probably assume it would be a Don't Nod game as well.
Yes.
It's a bit more grittier and it kind of like obviously fits the tone of the game. So either way, I thought I'd mention that as a kind of news section. Are you got anything else to add?
No, I'm also interested in playing this game. I don't know when I'm gonna do it because I still have some other projects on my agenda, but I'm very, very excited to be playing it though, like someday soon. Because
Definitely.
Harmony is in that list of projects, so
Yeah, I
because that
believe we'll
comes
probably
out
get.
June 8th.
Yeah, I probably believe we'll get first impressions from you. I don't know if I'll be picking up a release, but just purely because Final Fantasy 16 is coming out next month, and I'm sorry, I'm like leaning towards that more than Harmony at the minute.
Yeah.
So might be a
Get a
bit of a wait
Switch.
until we get like a full. Well, yeah, again. Um, So we will see how that goes in the next month or so. But do stay tuned. We'll cover stuff that comes out from Don't Nod. And speaking of Don't Nod,
Yes.
our last piece of news, which is from their Twitter page, 19th of May, they tweeted 8 years ago, Life is Strange episode 3 Chaos Theory was released. It was an intense one, right? Question mark. So yes, it is 8 years ago this month that Life is Strange episode 3 Chaos Theory came out. Probably arguably one of the best episodes in the series, if not the
Mhm.
best. Started off the episode 3 chain of like really great episodes that you can get from the series. Yeah, I think we've both spoken about this before. I love episode 3 Chaos Theory. Like
Oh
I'm looking
yes.
at the I'm looking at the first tweet on there, like in reply to it, a guy called Ali replying, and it's just a picture of Max at the end of that
Yeah.
episode with the twist, and it's like, yeah, it's like God damn, it's like God damn, this was a twist.
Yeah, dude. Oh, just beautiful. And the fact that it's like it was 8 years ago, dude. 8 8 years ago. God, I don't like how time passes. But it still stands the time that like it's almost a decade old and it still stands up as one of the greatest twists that ever happened in a video game.
Yeah.
Like ever. Like one of.
Yeah.
I won't say the greatest, but I will say it's one of the greatest twists that ever happened in a video game. It all happened in episode 3, 8 years ago.
Yeah. This was the first episode I reviewed out of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did, as I had embargo in place to do it. So I remember finishing this episode. I remember going to Reddit and looking at it and seeing people like speculating the discussion and stuff. It's like, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you guys do not know what you're going to get. Yeah, I remember this one. This was crazy. This was crazy. Just sitting there completing it and then sitting under embargo, waiting for people to talk about it. I'm like, this is actually it's weird, man. It's a weird kind of thing because I imagine like people would love to play video games early, like before releases and stuff. But like when you're doing it as like a journalist or like as a games journalist, it's like it's kind of sad as well because you can't talk to people about it. You can't say anything about it. You can't like you're like so far ahead. It's like I'm waiting for people to finish the game. Like then we can kind of talk about it. But no, generally speaking, great episode. Like as I said, the twist is obviously phenomenal. The third episode was just really well paced. It was really well paced. The story just flowed really well, and I think like that's the one that really set up for like a lot of people. But yeah, really good episode.
Oh, like absolutely phenomenal. So I'm glad that even after 8 years, I still will go back to it and like not be shocked, but like I actually love the pacing of it, the way it set itself up, the way it ended, right? Like it was just a beautiful way of writing. So I'm glad in video games that it still stands up to the test of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we crack into our main topic?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so we're going to move into our main topic. We kind of alluded to this one at the beginning of the last episode, but we were talking about it off podcast. But we're going to make it the main topic because there was a bit of controversy, quote unquote, because GQ did a piece which was the 100 greatest video games of all time, ranked by experts. And I'm putting that in little finger movements there because this is the most ridiculous list I've ever seen. And I don't know, people have opinions, shock and awe, everything like that. The way that the list is done is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen because one, you don't get your news from GQ anyway for video game news, and then two, the way it's done makes no sense because like you're putting together 100 greatest video games and you'll see what happens as well with like some of the games. But we're going to make this a topic because we're going to talk about would Life is Strange be one of the 100 greatest video games of all time? Not necessarily where to rank, but would it fit in there? So it's like, would we consider it to be one of the 100 greatest video games ever made? Right. So obviously we'll talk about that. So this was written by Sam White and Robert Leadham. So the article in itself, it says, we asked the world's greatest developers, game developers, streamers, directors, and writers, and more to help us crown the best games of all time. And by the way, as well, I looked at some of the people who voted in this. This is even more ridiculous because you're considering experts. Streamers aren't experts. No. I know people who stream who don't like video games or who just like one video game. There's no sense in that. They are not experts. That's like me writing a history book and then going to a grade school teacher and saying, okay, I want your advice. And it's like, they're not an expert, are they?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Okay, so going to the article here. So it says, greatest games of all time have, for all time, gone the same way. A team of video game journalists sit down and put together a ranking that is almost predetermined, a seemingly canonical hall of fame that attempts to cover off as many bases as possible. Here at GQ, we thought we'd embrace chaos instead. Rather than shuffle Ocarina of Time, Dark Souls, and Eco across a big list according to our own whims, we decided to get our friends involved. So we have the industry at large blank. So we gave the industry a blank canvas on which to determine which. Sorry, I'm like completely lost that. So we gave the industry at large a blank canvas on which to determine their own criteria of quote unquote best, end quote, to see where the chosen games differ and where they're similar to the traditionally accepted canon. That meant gathering together a massive collective of our favorite developers, streamers, directors, and journalists in the business. Think of it as in a quote unquote Avengers Assemble moment, end quote. I'm like half tempted to throw my iPad out the window at the minute. This article just infuriate me just the way it's written. Like, are you actually, never mind, getting angry at this point. Each voter had one task: pick a personally ranked top 10 list. A game in which the first receives 10 points. A game in the 10th place receives 1 point. We invited 300 individuals to participate and received 239 final lists with an incredible 652 games receiving one or more votes. Our winner not only received the most votes, but also placed in people's number ones more than any other rival. For us, the full list is one of many different stories, from surprising newcomers like 2019's Disco Elysium, okay, making an incredibly deep run in the game's rankings, to a complete absence of mega franchise names such as Assassin's Creed. Well, I don't really consider that as one of the... Anyway, we'll get into this conversation in a minute. It's a mix of new, old, and very old, with the blockbusters and indies from every genre, from studios in every corner of the world. There are familiar faces, often in surprising places, and a couple of inclusions we didn't simply expect to see. You can see how it looks below. So at the bottom, they give you a full list of the people who voted. Again, like in itself, that says to me a lot about the quality. They're no different from podcasters or YouTubers like us giving an opinion. So it's like, I don't understand what their quality and metric is in the involvement on this. But like, I'll run you through some of this just in terms of the very early top 10, because the top 10 is even more absurd as it is, but as you will. And then obviously the spoiler is that Life is Strange did not make the list at all in any way, shape, or form. So the top 10, according to this, the greatest video games of all time by the quote-unquote experts, as we will. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, is number 1. Number 2 is The Last of Us. Jesus, God help us. I'm like refraining myself from swearing. By the way, like if you've wrote this recently, Life is StrangeCast has become PG. I made the executive decision on Adam to like not include profanity. And I said, when I say I made the executive decision, it's because Adam doesn't usually swear on it. So it's like me refraining myself from saying it, because we want to get the podcast out to more people, because we have to mark it explicit on Spotify otherwise. So we're refraining. So I'm refraining now from saying anything like even more. Anyway, 3, Tetris, 1985. Number 4, Bloodborne, number 4. Number 5, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. Number 6, Mass Effect 2. Number 7, Metal Gear Solid, right, in itself. And that fact that that game is finished outside the top 5 already makes this list irrelevant. Number 8, Portal 2. Number 9, Dark Souls. And number 10, Half-Life 2, right? So my issue with this, more than anything else, is the way the metric of the list is done. It's so stupid. You can't get a list of 300 people, whatever you think of their profession, their expertise, whatever you want to say, and then give them saying, name the best games of all time, because this list is missing big games. Like, so there's no Telltale game in there. Not a single Telltale game, the one that redefined the entire like industry in terms of storytelling. Like, Call of Duty is like 70 plus. Like, there's noticeable omission. I think Devil May Cry is not on this list, for example. So there's like no DMC on there.
It's not on this
Assassin's
list.
Creed 2 is not on this list. Obviously, even the first Life is Strange, that's debatable. That's kind of like our topic conversation that's not even on here. There's like key franchising games that are on here. Pac-Man is not on here. Pac-Man, which revolutionized the arcading system that everyone knows. Street Fighter 2, which changed the fighting genre, is not on here. So like, the thing is that the list makes no sense, because at this point you're just basically asking 100 people, tell me what your favorite game is, and making a ranking, because it can't be the greatest games of all time. Because I said this to Adam, he's been playing Tears of the new Zelda game. I don't like Zelda. I think it's the most overrated franchise in history. I just don't get it. I don't get why people like it. If you said to me, I'm saying to me, Adnan, sit down, tell me what the 100 greatest video games of all time, will Zelda be on there? Yes.
Yeah, no, like I'm actually playing Breath of the Wild. I'm not even playing the new one. It's because like, I keep seeing on people's number 1, and I tried to get into it a couple times, and I've played like 5 Zelda games, and I'm just like, I get it. But now I'm in a mentality. I'm finally playing Breath of the Wild. I'm like, okay, I get why people like this game. Like, I get it. But to say it's the greatest game of all time, I get why people say that. I wouldn't rank it as my number 1 game of all time in terms of revolutionary, but it is what it is. Like, it's up there. It's definitely in a top 10. I like the mechanics of the game. But however, it is abysmal that not even Life is Strange, not even Pac-Man, Not even Street Fighter 2. I don't think
Street Fighter 2 is on there. Apologies, it
Oh,
is on
yes,
there.
it
I
is.
just checked. It's 27. But even still, like that, the other
Yes.
ones are there are big noticeable omissions actually, just to emphasize that. Because
But
like
Halo 2 is not on this list. Halo 2, like, come on.
like look, and my argument here to kind of like start this in terms of conversation isn't that anyone's top 10 is different. Like we get that. I get that every single time. It's like comment. It's like, well, people have an opinion. It's subjective. Of course it is. But it's a comprehension of a list like this because, for example, The Last of Us Part 2 is 28. That would not even be in my top 50 video games of all time. Like, let alone that's probably one of the worst sequels I've ever played in a video game. And I have, like, anyone you ever speak to about The Last of Us 2, like, they don't get it because it's like, no, you can hate on that game because it's just a very poorly developed, made video game. And it's like, I look at that list and look at some of the entries on it. They're so questionable because I'm like, you're asking people here what, like, I think even when they ask these people, name the top 10 greatest games, I bet you a lot of people would have said, that's my top 10 favorite games of all time. So it's like,
Yes.
for me, I can't, if you sat there and asked me, Adnan, what's your top 10 favorite games of all time? And what are the 10 greatest games of all time? Both those lists would be different.
Yes.
Because Life is
Yes.
Strange, for example, would be my top 10 favorite games of all time. But is
Yes.
it in the top 10 greatest games of all time? No.
Yes.
So it's like that's the difference of like where this metric of the list doesn't work because like you're missing out loads of games. Maybe it was mentioned in a couple of people. Maybe some people did mention Pac-Man. I imagine the majority of people didn't because they didn't see the reference of it. They're probably just like, oh yeah, it's iconic, but it's like I'm not going to put it in because it's not one of my favorite games of all time. So it's like the fact that it's now being left out and you're giving people saying, oh, here's 10 your 10 greatest games of all time. Hence why The Last of Us is number 2. The Last of Us is not the second greatest game. Oh my
Of
god!
all
Like
time,
like
of all time. No.
I liked The Last of Us when it came out. I thought it was a good game. It's like a good 7 out of 10 game for me, if not 8. But the absolute glorification of that game. I saw a piece in the Gamer. I think it's the Gamer where it said like Metal Gear Solid 3 remake could learn a lot from The Last of Us and Hitman.
You
And I was
know,
like,
you know about the people who are ranking this list?
yeah.
Neil Druckmann is part of it.
Well, it says a lot about it. I do not like Neil Druckmann. I'll tell you that right now. Like, oh god, the Druckmann era of Naughty Dog has been the worst, and I say that because I really like Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog in its peak had had Amy Hennig and Bruce Straley there. They are absolute incredible developers. They really, I think Bruce Straley is the minds behind The Last of Us. Compared to Neil Druckmann, he gets all the credit. Bruce Straley is absolutely a fantastic developer. His work on Uncharted 2 with Amy Hennig, chef's kiss.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, like The Last of Us being number 2, like here's an actual article I saw, Adam, and I don't get really rattled. I really don't. Well, someone put it here. It was on the Gamer. The Snake Eater remake can't ignore how Hitman and The Last of Us games have changed stealth games. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, are you serious? The Last of Us's stealth mechanics are like the most pedestrian I've ever seen. Like, and we're talking about The Last of Us has come after Splinter Cell, Hitman, Metal Gear, and you're telling me The Last of Us is pioneering stealth mechanics. It's like the most mediocre stealth games I've ever seen. Like, they're not even like, this is what I mean. This is what gets my blood pressure rising. But I thought this list was just daft because, like, for example, to have The Last of Us Part 2 28 and then The Last of Us number 2, and then you look at all these other games that were left off the list, we were like talking about our podcast. There's so many games from so many different franchises. The fact like Metal Gear Solid is like 7 out of like the top 10. Anyone, even if you don't like that game or whatever else, it would be in the top 5. It changed the industry. The Last of Us would not be the game it is without Metal Gear Solid because every game you had after Metal Gear Solid implemented radical cutscenes, the storytelling mechanics that you wanted. Kojima's game revolutionized the franchise. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater should be in the top 10, if anything. It's like it's just a weird metric of the list that was done. But in the conversation of Life is Strange, kind of make it relevant as well. I was kind of surprised it's not on there, considering like some of the other games that are on there. We're talking about a game that, we're talking about a game that won a BAFTA, won critical acclaim, had very little kind of like marketing behind it,
won
very
a
little
Peabody
expectation.
Award.
Award. Was
one
that
of the
True
games
Colors?
won it. It was True Colors, but like no Life is Strange game is on here. Like,
no Life is
Strange game is on BAFTAs. It's won a Peabody. It's won many different like awards at the game show of Games for Impact. It has Ashley Birch in it. Like, it's a notable game. It's notable, at least you can say. And yet it's not even on this 100 games of all time.
Yeah, it's a shame because like Life is Strange should be on there. Like I'm looking at some of the games. There's some great games on there. I'm looking back on them and really enjoyed them. Like Grand Theft Auto. Like how is Grand Theft Auto 491? Most people would say that's the best in the series. It's like criminally underappreciated now when you look back on it. Where it's like there's no metric behind
Yes.
it. It's like me and Chief. We went out in the streets and said, we asked 100 people to name. It's almost like Family Fortune. We asked 100 people to name us the best 10 games of all time. What are they going to
Yes.
say? The metric's going to
Yeah.
be based on like, and like even if you said it to me, it's like you came to me as quote unquote one of the experts. And I keep using the quotation marks. Of, like if they're experts, then like God help us. Like I'm an expert at Life is Strange apparently. Then, but it's like if you speak to the experts and they're giving you 10 limited, like even I couldn't give you 10 limited because I'm like, oh my God, it's like what am I going to leave out here? It's like, what am I going to leave out?
Exactly.
What can I put in here? It's like I can't talk about the 10 greatest video games of all time and not mention Metal Gear or Super Mario or like Gears of War or Call of Duty or Bioshock or like these kind of games that changed the industry, like landscape. Like Gears of War's not in here. That game radicalized the third person over the shoulder kind of like shooter genre.
Yeah. None of them are in here. There are no Gears of War games on this. Yeah, none at all. It's insane. Like insane.
I remember when you said Firewatch at 8, you're like, Firewatch? It's like, how did that
Firewatch is good, but like better than Gears, better than Life is Strange, better than Pac-Man, better than like it doesn't make any sense, dude. But yeah, I would personally put Life is Strange, the first one, I would personally put it in the top 100 games of all time.
Yeah,
I would, because it's
I would.
notable in the video games industry. Like it changed a lot of people's perspective on what a video game can do in terms of storytelling.
I think the most difficult thing with doing the 100 greatest video games is it when you start seeing overlaps. Because I think it's because like for me, if you said to me like name the 100 greatest video games of all time, about 5 of those slots are reserved for Metal Gear games.
Yes.
So I think that some of them are 10 out of 10s, but it's like if you like concentrate it, like there's so many Zelda games in here, and then for example like Tetris is in the top 10, which fair enough because it's like Tetris is
Yes.
like God, it's like it changed the way the game. Like so many people play Tetris, but then like 79 on the list, Tetris Effect is there, 2018. I'm like, are you saying that? Wait, what? It's like
Greatest game of all time. It
Yeah,
was
it's like
fun. Tetris Effect was great, but like the greatest game of all time? No. Like it was fun. It was fun.
But yeah, because I think like if when you start doing that, it's like it's 100 great video games of all time. Like Zelda, just it's like Zelda. I've seen this list, and I'm like how does that even work? Then it's like you're putting that many Zelda games in here. It's like are they all 10 out of 10s? I don't think they are. If anything, I can kind of get why some people might say Ocarina of Time is the greatest. Fair enough. But it's like is
Sure.
every Zelda game a 10 out of 10? Not really. No, it's not going to be like that. I
So
think
the
maybe you have
Zelda
to like
games that they have is Majora's Mask, which yes, like that was good. Wind Waker, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and of course Breath of the Wild. They didn't even touch Twilight Princess, which in my opinion is like one of my favorite Zeldas, Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
But it's not even on this list. If I could replace any Zelda with Twilight Princess, it would be probably Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask, go for Twilight Princess, and good to go. Now I understand why Majora's Mask is on here because of the timing with the Blood Moon. Not the Blood Moon, but there's a timing aspect to it. There is like kind of stakes involved, and that's nice. But Twilight Princess was better. Like fight me. You can fight me. Fight me. Let's go.
Yeah, it's just
But
like it's
that's
just weird looking. It's just weird looking at some of this list. Like I just can't get how it works out. Like God of War 2018 is 47. It's like okay, I like that God of War, but it's like Destiny's how is Destiny on there? I remember Destiny kind of like just whittling out.
Can I also
Is
note?
it actually popular?
Can I also Destiny? Yes, very much so. Yes.
Is it still very popular?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh
really?
Yeah. Really? Yeah, it's got a huge community, dude. Yeah.
I remember like everyone's buzzed back then. It's like almost the hype completely fade off. Where it's like, oh, it's actually not the next Halo.
Can I also note that God of War 2018 is the only God of War game on this list? The only God of War game. None of the originals. Just God of War 2018.
Ooh.
Shame. Yeah.
Yeah. God of War 3 was excellent.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Was excellent. I think is Halo 3 on this? Was it that another note?
Halo 3 is on this, but not Halo 2. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that so much. I like
I
Halo
get
3, but Halo 2 was the game, dude.
yeah. I don't get how
I don't know. And
BioShock
that's coming
Infinite was
from
on this
me. If
list.
you can't see, like I have my collector's editions right here of Halo 2, Halo 3, 4, 5. I'm a Halo fan. And I like Halo 3. But let me tell you this. I would replace Halo 3 with Halo 2 on this list. I would. No.
Man
Like
loves
that's
Halo.
just not. Yeah. I got my Halo Reach collector's edition there. No, like it's not a competition here. It's just like a Halo 2 should be on this list. It's like it is a defining game in video games that Halo 2 is in it. Halo 3, I think, amplified Halo 2 for sure. But if you're going to put Halo 1 and Halo 3 on this list, it's a crime. In fact, Assassin's Creed
It's
2 not being on this list is a crime.
It's a crime, man. There's like so many games that are just not on this list that are crime. It's like, I'm sorry, if you're telling me that Last of Us Part 2 is a better game than Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, just please do not listen to this podcast ever again. I just cannot, with any logic, explain like where some of these rankings are. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, oh god, it's like it's so daft. It's so daft. Like on the actual conversation of Life is Strange. Like, if I was doing the list as well, it would be heavy bias to put it in there. But I think like if I was to create 100 greatest games of all time, I could make a very strong case for it to be in the 100 greatest video games of all time.
Because like I
And
said, it's at least notable.
yeah,
If I would put it on the rank, maybe in like the high 70s, like in the 70s.
yeah,
Put
yeah,
Life is Strange in there. But like
it would,
it's a notable game.
yeah, it would sit in the, it wouldn't sit in the top 50. It would sit outside of it for me, and it'd probably sit in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it'd have to be behind like something like a Telltale game. Like, I would get a Telltale game in there. Like The Walking Dead needs to be in there. That game just radicalized storytelling in terms of the way they did it in the industry. Like, every game was like, everyone was like, Telltale's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Not a dig as well. I'm saying, like, it was like, I was like, oh, actually, this is great. It's like, this is like we're changing perceptions of, like, not saying that Telltale specifically did, but we're changing perceptions of it has to be a run and gun blazing kind of game. It's like we can just do very simple point and click interactive stories and everything else with that, all that other good jazz. And I think like that's what Life is Strange did. Life is Strange was so clever with what it did. Like, there was no expectation with it.
I would like chop off this list and make room for Life is Strange.
What?
Number 83. I would put number 83. Like, just dock that out and then put it in Life is Strange.
We're struggling through here.
Yeah. Go for it. I want you to see it.
Shenmue.
Nope.
Oh god, how is Bioshock Infinite one of the 100 greatest games of all time? I remember more people being Do you remember the original trailer they did for Bioshock Infinite as well?
Yes.
Like, everyone always refers back to that. It changed so much in development. Bioshock Infinite is not a bad game either, but it's like, if you're comparing it, it's like, it's not in, like, I think like I've had a better experience with Minerva's Den DLC in Bioshock 2 than I did with Infinite. I think that's a better Bioshock experience than Bioshock Infinite. But no, Bioshock Infinite. Because, as I said, it makes no sense you put a list like this together. It's like,
but that's what I mean. I think if we put Life is Strange at number 83 of all time, I think that's a good placement for it. Quite honestly,
for me, it would have to sit in 80s. It would have to sit in 80s, or personally as well, I think I'd probably put it in the 90s, because I think that's the less like, games that have to be in there, like, ahead of it, have to have like changed things. Like for example, for me, like Gears of War, Super Mario, Halo, Metal Gear, what's it called? I'm just trying to figure out. Like, I'm just finding Bioshock, like games that Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed. These games have to go ahead of it because they had sizable changes in the industry. Like, they have to rank in high ranking positions, whether you like them or not. That's the difference. Like, even with, I said to you as well, someone says to me, is Zelda one of the greatest games of all time? I'm like, yes, it has to be, because it's had such a profound impact. I don't like Zelda, but I understand why it's done what it's done. I understand why it has such a reverence with it. I understand why people like it so much. Hence why it would have to be there. When I say it's one of the top 10 games of all time, I would have to say, yeah, it would have to be in there.
Yes, of course.
I'd have to put like Ocarina of Time or something in there. It'd have to be, one of them would have to go into the top 10 of it. That's where these kind of, when you make these kind of lists, and I've done them myself as well, you have to sit there and really think about who's who in your list as well. Like who's going in there and why they're going into position of it. You can't just allocate just random spots and be like, oh, this person's going there, this person's going there, that person's going there. You have to pick the games that change it. And it's like for them, the metric it shows as well, because it shows as well the age of the people who are in this experts list as well, because The Last of Us Part 1 has become such a popular thing for people in terms of it's had its own TV show. It's had its like a mainstream popularity. It's obviously had a massive millennial kind of like clientele of people who are playing it because they're growing up with it. But it's like it also shows as well that it's number 2 on a list where there's 100 greatest video games of all time, and half the stuff that happens in Last of Us Part 1 would never have happened had it not been for the 50 plus games that are behind it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how is this ahead of it then?
Also, can I also say that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, number 78, is a war crime at this point.
Yeah, it is sacrilegious, isn't it?
78, dude.
Take my glasses off here. Yeah, as I said to you, if you ever listen to the audio version, you should just watch the video version, because it's like the blind fury that is in like my heart and his heart right now. It's like
the fact that Ollie World isn't on the top 100 games of all time is a crime, dude. It's a crime.
Come on.
Number 1 game of all time, Ollie World. Get Breath of the Wild out of here. Ollie World. Let's put that game in the top 100. Let's go. No questions, no fights, or else come in the parking lot. I will fight you with my fists. Okay? Top 100.
It's a really difficult one, because as I said, like there's a strong case for me to put Life is Strange 1 in the top 100 video games of all time. I think it deserves it, because like we're talking about a game that had very little expectation placed on it. A game that came out of nowhere, which really kind of like captured the mood, the tone, everything else with that. A game that kind of like really evolved on storytelling, especially with the rewind mechanic. Like rewinding time necessarily isn't like the most like, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's like really original, but it's the way it's implemented into a video game, and then in the kind of like same substance of Telltale games. Because like as much as I really enjoyed Telltale games, I've always said I've really enjoyed them. An issue with Telltale games has always been like it feels like it's an illusion of choice in like a lot of scenarios, and then it feels like you're just saying it with like a kind of like, oh, this character will remember this. It was kind of like with Life is Strange and the rewind mechanic, you were doing something, and then you could see the repercussions of doing something, very early repercussions, like near term. But then you'd kind of be like, should I do the other option instead? And you'd rewind it, then go to that one. It's like, And you get left with this dilemma. It's like, which one do I go with? Should I actually do this option? Should I not do this option? So I think like that was kind of like the early advancements of like a really revolutionary mechanic. It had great performances as well. Like, it really transcended Ashley Birch's career. It won BAFTAs as well. It spawned sequels. It became a franchise. It had success. It really did have on that. And as I said, the conversation for me wouldn't be like, oh, it's going to be in the top 50. It'd have to be in the outside 50 as well. And I'd have to be in like, I'd have a place for it. And maybe it's my bias, but I think if for example, we're comparing what this list has done and having the experts put in the list as well, it's like, for me, Life is Strange would get in there. It'd get in the 90s at least minimum. If I was pushing it, I'd put it in the 80s, but like 90s would be the minimum, because it's like I would look at all the games in history and the ones that I'd have to go on there, like Doom, Street Fighter, all these kind of games that have had revolutionary impacts would have to go on there. But I just don't understand, like, to put a list like this together. It is what it is. We've always had this conversation. I know that lists rattle people, but like these ones really, really annoy me, and it's like I just don't get it. It's like when I saw The Last of Us, it was baffling for that, and then the Gamer article I saw, which I said to you before, which was it's like the Snake Eater remake can learn a lot from The Last of Us and Hitman for stealth games. I'm like, are you actually serious? It's like, are you actually serious? It's like, how old are you? It's like, have you played these video games? It's like,
and like I said, like I'm glad that games like The Return of Obra Dinn are in this list. I think that is like a really astounding, and that's the thing. It's a good like feat of innovation in video games, like modern video games. I think Return of Obra Dinn deserves to be in this list. But however, if we're on that same trial of like innovation, that's why Life is Strange needs to be on the top 100. It's just like,
no, sorry, continue.
No, I was just saying that like Life is Strange is too notable to not be on this list. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, I agree. Are you on your computer?
Am I on my computer?
No, sorry. Are you on the computer with the article? Can you see if Metal Gear Solid 2 is on there?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Let's see. Metal Gear Solid. Oh no, it is not. Just 1 and 3. That's it.
Oh my god! Like even that is like just sacrilegious. Like 2 is just such a funny game as well. Like people like look back on it now after like all these critics like just hated on it because you couldn't play a snake, and then realizing how like that game now. Go back and play it. We're talking like, do you know, like we're talking about conversations about AI now and everything. Like Jesus Christ, that game was doing it 20 years ago, 21 years ago. It was doing it. It's like everything you see now and the way you live. It predicted it. It's so scary about like memes and about AI and about false spread of information. You like look at it, you go back on it, and it's like the reverence that game had on so many people and what it did. It's like, how is that not in a list? It just the fundamentals of the list don't make any sense. As like what the worst thing was when I realized the people who were basically had a voting option in there. It's like me going and voting, like me being added to an expert panel of people who vote on the best banjos of all time. And I'm sitting there, it's like, yeah, I voted for these in my top 10 banjo designs of all time. You're like, what do you know about it? I'm like, yeah, it's true.
Yes.
Actually, it's like me. It's like me just coming on there. It's like, well, if I was being put on that panel, it's like you'd be like, why is he on there? It's like, what's his opinion? What's his actual worth? It's like, well, my credentials would be like, former journalist, if anything, in terms of games industry. I can't go on there as a YouTuber. What's my opinion on anything at that point?
Yeah. No, honestly.
It's the chasm that's opened up. We're also as well. Just before someone calls that, we're also part of the problem because we also have a podcast. It's like everyone wants a podcast. Everyone wants conversation. Like my purpose of creating this podcast and having you here as well is just to talk about Life is Strange. We don't add anything more than that. It's just kind of keep a conversation going.
Yeah.
I don't say
Also,
I don't say on him.
none of the voters were from Don't Nod. Nobody from Don't Nod was on the voting list.
Do you think you'd vote for your own game? Because if I was like if I was Michelle,
Neil
Luc,
Druckmann was on here. Of course, he voted for his own game.
Does it tell you what he voted for?
No, it doesn't say what they voted for. It just says who was in the list.
What I've noticed is that people went on Twitter and then revealed their top 10. So it's like a lot of the pretentious streamers, a lot of the pretentious YouTubers, and some of the game journalists revealed their top 10s. So when the list was published, they revealed what they voted for. And I never caught Neil Druckmann. I probably imagine he wouldn't tell you what would be named on it. I imagine he would probably put The Last of Us on there as well, knowing what kind of person he is. But yeah, it's a weird collection of games though. It's like because there's no criteria for me. It's like if you said to me, "It's like what's the 10 greatest games of all time?" Like probably like 9 of them aren't going to be my favorite games.
Yes,
because I have to sit there subjectively and think like I'm talking about the 10 greatest video games of all time, the one that changed it. And your first conversation I have with me is like, obviously you're a Life is Strange fanatic. You run a channel on it. Would it be included in the list? I'd be like, no.
top 10.
It just wouldn't be. No,
top
it wouldn't
10
be.
of all
It was my
time,
top
no.
10 favorite video games of all time. Of course, it would be. And if I was subjectively writing this list that they did, and I had to do the 100 greatest video games of all time, I would have to sit there carefully with Life is Strange and see if it actually fits in there. Because I couldn't sit there and be like, if it was a debate between that and a Telltale game, well, Telltale has to go ahead of it.
Yes.
Because the studio had much more of a profound impact with the episodic genre, especially like The Walking Dead. It's going to have a bigger impact on it.
So right now, off the top of my head, without thinking about it, right? I'm just going to list off top 10 games of all time. No particular order. I'm not going to rank them. I'm just going to say like what I think should be in the top 10. So
that's interesting, actually.
Yeah, no particular order. I'm not ranking. So Ocarina of Time has to be up there just because it did revolutionize 3D gaming. Like it had to be there. The original Super Mario Brothers like brought back video games. Like it essentially just brought back like what it is on video games. So so far I have Ocarina of Time, Super Mario. I'm gonna have to put Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 because that really that cemented what like actual sports games can do. I'm revolutionizing it. I don't care. Fight me on this. Metal Gear Solid, like Metal Gear Solid has to be up there because it revolutionized, sneaking games, like little sneaky games. I'm gonna have to say probably I really want to say the original Zelda too. The original, like Zelda, like because it did revolutionize open world games, like it mapped it out. So I'm putting it out there. I got 2 Zelda games on here. So that's my in my 5. I'm gonna say, you know what? Fight me on this. go ahead, fight me. I'm putting it in my top 10. Like Fortnite. I think Fortnite, what it did for
Yeah,
games, like to say like Battle Royale, and it just updated, it revolutionized and innovated. It's still
as
to
a
this
live
day.
service game, that's
Yes.
definitely
And
revolutionary.
it's very revolutionary. It changed the industry of things are made. So I'm gonna say Fortnite is in the 6th spot. I'm
Mm,
gonna say a 7th game. Oh, Tetris, just because
yeah,
Tetris, Pac-Man is in my top 10. And I'm gonna be very selective with my last 2 games. So I have Pac-Man. Let me go. Oh man, this is tough. I don't want to say Halo 2 either because it's not in there. It's definitely not in there. Man,
gotta
let
be
me go
Halo
on a
3. That online
Halo 3.
gameplay.
I'll kill somebody, dude. It's like, I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm really gonna say, I'm gonna say Resident Evil 4. I think,
That you just taken it off my tongue. If you had not mentioned that, I was going to say,
yeah,
isn't it very strange how Resident Evil 4 is not in the top 10?
no,
Even if we were basically, even though, not even like a dig of, oh, I have my rant before, but in terms of even 300 people or so being asked, and obviously 230 responded, but it's like, even those 230, Resident Evil 4
yes,
collectively did not secure a place in the top 10. That's
no,
kind of like really, that's wild to me, that as well, because like Resident Evil 4, whether it's divisive or not, is like usually unanimously considered one of the greatest video games of all time,
yeah,
and rightfully so for me in my eyes.
yeah. So Resident Evil 4 is in my 10, and my 10th spot, Ollie Ollie World.
Well, this is the difference between your favorite video games and the greatest video games of all
I
time.
don't know what
And,
you're talking about. Ollie Ollie World is my favorite game. I don't know what you're talking about. It's up there. It's a notable game. It is in top 10 greatest of all time. But if I have to put a honorary mention at number 11, I guess, besides Ollie Ollie World, um, you know what? Man, I'm gonna say, man, I hate to say it, dude, but like the original Madden. Like
yeah,
Madden, yeah, Madden really changed everything on terms of like I say Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 changed how like extreme sports games can be played, but then the original Madden came out and just like look what it did today. It's just like still to this day one of the greatest games like to be played, like
mhm.
everybody's still playing Madden. And then it gave suit to like NBA 2K. It gave suit to NHL games. It gave suit to like so many like different routes in terms of sports games. So I would say Madden is in there to like say for sports games.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because like even like because it's like you're compiling that list. I could like even make an argument for like FIFA 12 or FIFA 11 for its how
Sure.
it's like
Oh, FIFA
revolutionized like
12.
the.
Oh,
That's what I mean.
yes.
Like even like the sports game have like an absence of that list. Like there's like quite a few selections of things where I'm like noticing gaps because of how you voted the criteria of it. So it's like you're missing games that really like, if you're talking about 10 years, in the last 10 years have really revolutionized the way that we've done things. And we're talking about like FIFA with like Ultimate Team and stuff like that. It's like the introduction of those mechanics have really redefined EA Sports as like live services. It's microtransactions, etc. Um, but no, it's very interesting top 10 list as well. Like because like some of those would be on mine. Like it's hard for me to even say. I can't even do it. I can't do the top 10 greatest games of all time. It's almost an
Yeah.
impossible list. That it's like almost an
I'm just
impossible
thinking a
list to
way of
do.
just like what changed the industry.
Yeah,
Not just like
because
my favorites, but like what legitimately changed the
yeah,
industry. And that's why I said Fortnite is in there because it has legitimately changed the industry since its like release of Battle
yeah,
Royale. Because originally it was just a single player game, and then it said Battle Royale for free with some micro, and it just changed everything. Like everybody wanted their Fortnite, and it's still to this day one of the greatest games to be played. So
yeah.
I'm putting it up there as top 10 of all time.
Because like maybe not, I won't name my top 10. If I'm talking about the top 20 video games of all time, and if I had to put games in them, the ones that would be in there would be obviously Metal Gear, because it changed stealth. It just
Yes.
not even just stealth mechanics,
Yes.
changed the entire way that you see stories. Now the way that it sees stories, the way they're told, the cinematics, they are because of Metal Gear Solid. It's because of that. So like Metal Gear would be in there. Super Mario World would be in there. I love that game. I think it
Yes.
redefined the platforming genre. I think it's an unbelievable game. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare would have to be in there. It
Yes.
radicalized first-person shooters. It's just unbelievable.
Yes.
Resident Evil 4, like you said, would have to be in there. It changed genres. It changed storytelling, etc. The first BioShock would be in there. I think it's just
top 10.
It was a top 20. This is my top 20 of like games that would be in the
going
top 20.
20.
Well, I'm just kind of like naming them off because for me to definitively name the top 10 would be just difficult off the top of my head. I'd have to sit
That's
there
what I mean.
and think about
I'm not ranking them where they are in the 10. I'm just saying like these would be in it.
It would be like the top 20 of these kind of games. Like so that would be in there. Gears of War would have to be in there. Again, was massively radically transformed the kind of like the genre. Even Halo 3 would be debatable for me. I never really got into Halo 3, but because of the online experience, it was really like kind of that era.
I can agree to that.
Like,
yes.
With online experiences, like I remember everyone like getting on there and the music that I played. It's like damn, I'm getting chills, man. I'm so old. I'm like getting chills. That Xbox 360 era. Those would be in there. There's like just like lists of games that I'm like thinking of. I'm like my brain is like processing all these different games. Even like Tetris, Pac-Man would have to be in there. The early Mario games would have to be in there. I'm trying to think of anything noticeable I'm missing. Like look at my list now.
I know.
Even like Doom as well. Doom would have to be quite up there as well. It was like massively radical for what it was doing. Yeah, it's a hard one, man. It's a really hard one. All those lists. As I said, I just find it comprehensible. Like when you do that, it kind of like shows the one of the things I find with that list. It shows a heavy leaning bias to the industry as well, especially towards Naughty Dog. I think they're like the fact that Crash Bandicoot's not in the
Naughty
top 20.
Dog and From Software.
Yeah, and I find that. Do you find it weird that Crash Bandicoot's not in there?
Oh my god! Yeah.
Where's Crash?
Well, there's no Crash. Crash?
No, Crash Bandicoot. No Crash. Oh my god!
No
Crash.
My god!
No Crash. Oh wow!
No Smash. No Smash. Wow.
I'm very surprised with Crash Bandicoot not being in there. Like, geez, but the list though for me shows reflectiveness of the age that people you're asking, because like the missing entries on there. There's so many games because obviously I've enjoyed my own life of like 30 years going on, and it's like the games that you've played. I'm like thinking about all the ones that radically transformed the industry, changed it. And when I mentioned like Crash Bandicoot, it's not even made the top 100 of that. I'm like surely like someone didn't even like. There's not like a large proportion of those people who in the list voting didn't put Crash Bandicoot in their top 10. So it's like the early Crash Bandicoot games were like that was like peak Naughty Dog years for me as well. Yeah. But then when you see like The Last of Us getting ranked up highly, I'm like, there's a heavy industry bias towards Naughty Dog. Like Jesus Christ, I always say this to people. Like, have you played The Last of Us Part 2?
No.
You're lucky. You're very lucky because I'm like unfortunate that I did play it. It was like one of the worst sequels I've ever played. Very poor storytelling. Like that's just like
I just realized. They put an Uncharted game on here. They put Uncharted 2. Oh no.
Wait, you don't like Uncharted 2?
It's like one of the most divisive ones. Like
it's the best game in the series.
What am I thinking of? Am I thinking of 3? 3 was.
You're thinking of 3. Drake's Deception was not very good. It was the prequel.
Yeah, I'm thinking of 3. No, I'm thinking of the intro to 2. Never mind. I'm stupid.
The intro to 2 is like the dogs.
It's the defining. I'm thinking of 3. That's my bad. I'm thinking of 3. Yes.
Yeah. I was getting a little bit worried when we were having this conversation. I was like, hang on a minute. It's like, is he about to like trash on Uncharted 2? I was like, no, Uncharted 2 is like the seminal moment in that series.
Yes, it is. I don't think it revolutionized games though. Like, I don't know. Like I like the first Uncharted a lot. Uncharted 2, but then like Uncharted 3, of course, is like
it'd make my top 50.
Uncharted 2? Yeah, okay. I could see that. It's ranked at number 34.
Yeah, it would make my list ahead of The Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2 by a country mile. I think it's like that. As I said to before, like that was Amy Hennig, Bruce Straley. That was like, like unbelievable. They're great. They're a great combination. That, but like as I said, like I just find it surprising that even like, what would be interesting to see is if anyone did vote for Life is Strange. I'd be surprised if anyone put in their top 10 of those lists of people. Just I don't know if it would actually make the top 10 for a lot of people, but I think if me and you were like tasked to do the 100 definitive video games of all time, I think it would make it for me. It'd be in the high. It'd be probably in the 90s, I think, if anything, or it'd have to be like, or it'd be maybe my bias shown. But I think it would make it more than some of those games that I see on the list compared to what I would put in there. I think it would make it. I think it was really, really, really seminal game. But it's like that list. It's just missing too many games from too many different genres, from too many different franchises, from too many different things. And it's like, how does that? How can you call it the 100 greatest video games of all time when there's no kind of like proper criteria? Because the methodology is the worst part for me. That's what annoyed me more about that list. Because like, if you want to make the Last of Us Last of Us 1 a second spot great thingy, your opinion, you're entitled to your opinion, even if you are wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion. But it's more so the fact that the way that they did the methodology doesn't work.
Jeez.
How can you say to someone, "Oh, here's pick your top 10, and we're giving you 10 point for this one and 1 point for that one"? It's like, but you're limiting them to 10 games.
Yes. No, it's just absolutely bananas, dude.
No. So, yeah, I think we can wrap up there. There's a lot of ranting and raving and everything else. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know. Do you think Life is Strange 1 would be considered top 100? Do you think another one would be in the top 100? I could see easily Life is Strange 2 being like one of the 10 best video games of all time, because it is. But, let us know in the comments. Let us know if you would agree with us or not. Do you think it could make top 100? Where would you put it yourself personally? If you were given the task of doing the 100 greatest video games, would it make it or would it not? Let us know. Adam?
Yes.
Spread the arts?
I think so, yeah.
I will let you kick things off because you're dying to pick your first thing, aren't you?
I'll say this much on a way of just like spread the arts here. Firstly, reading list. I'm only halfway through the book, so there's my little bookmark. So I'm not finished yet. But The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, I am in love with this. It's a meditations for creatives, and I think it gives a lot of great points for creative people. And I think it's well worth a read. It's very short chapters. I like it a lot, so like Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. So there's that. Also there's been a release on Spotify. I released a new EP. I released it. Yeah, so I released an EP under Caster Garden. It's called Fueled by Friendship. And it is an EP that I gathered together 6 of my friends, and we just made a whole EP together. And so I gathered them for different parts. The cover art for it is a flying whale. Okay, so you might be asking, why flying whale? I sent the digital artist one song. It was Summertime Dreams Reimagined, and I said, draw what comes to your head. And she said, I'm thinking of a flying whale. I'm like, perfect. And so it is, the flying whale is in a skit in the EP. So it's in the universe of the EP. So I am very proud of it. Fueled by Friendship, I think it's a step forward to what I can do. It may not be the best work I ever do, but I'm very proud of what I did. And I'm very happy with music that was involved. And I'm very happy that my friends were involved in it. So Fueled by Friendship, it's under Caster Garden. Check it out.
Yeah, I was wondering about the artwork because the whale was an interesting choice. Obviously, my boy Hideo Kojima has used a whale in MGS5. Big fan of Moby Dick, he was talking about. And then also it's in Death Stranding heavily with whales.
Yeah. Literally, I sent her Summertime Dreams. I'm like, what comes to your head? And she said flying whales. I'm like, let's do flying whales. Like, let's go for it.
Flying whales. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. By the way, as well, listeners, it's very interesting. He said 6 of his friends that came onto the album, and I currently was not included in that. So
you're not in my top 100 friends of all time. So
yeah, we see all the battle lines are being drawn here. I didn't take that personally.
You were in 7th place. You were the Resident Evil 4 of my list, essentially. So.
There's always an excuse there. So I don't really like. I know what my current value is, but no, do go and check those out. So my recommendation, I don't know what I'm really going to recommend here because I didn't really watch much. I watched a film, but I don't know if I want to recommend that.
You listened to an EP. But
I did, yeah. I will. As the 7th best friend who didn't make the album, I will recommend you go and check Adam's album out. That'll be I want to use this as a plug here because Adam worked very well on it. Adam's friend Marcus is involved in the album, as you will hear. Marcus was on Adam's previous album, which featured Kylie on there as well, and you'll enjoy that. And also, I'm a big fan of Marcus as well. And I said to Adam, he sounds like Barry White. So it's like you never want to unhear something. As I said, when I said to Adam before we came on, when I become famous, when I become famous, Marcus will be doing the audiobook for my life, because
he's got
a
a
very
voice,
soothing
man.
voice. Yeah, he's got a great voice. Voice. That guy could be like Kratos. He's got like that kind of voice in it. It's like he's just got a very musky like thingy. Basically, you got a voice that I wish I had for podcasts, because you probably enjoy it more than my my I like Life is Strange a lot. It's like that's my voice when I talk. Well, Marcus is like a pretty deepish voice, and he's like, oh yeah, that's. Yeah, so but honestly, go and check out Adam's album. It'll support him. He has his music inferiority complex sometimes, so it's like give him a bit of a boost for that. My favorite part was when you had the kind of like, oh, when we had private conversations, you're like, I don't know if I'm doing the music stuff right and all this. And I'm like, you do realize that you craft the music for this podcast. You do realize you craft the music for StrangeCast, and you do realize how many people have watched those episodes and have listened to it. It's like you're worried about what people think, and it's like the amount of the actual podcast has like over 3,000 plays on Anchor, and literally the first 15 seconds is your music. Most people might even click off after that. So it's like your music is setting the tone for whether the podcast.
They just take off the earbuds like, I can't. The theme song.
Yeah.
Just, yuck.
So that's what I mean. It's like it's literally right at the wedge at the beginning of it, at the end. So it's like it says a lot about who's listening to it and how much exposure it's getting every day. So, but yeah, my spread. My spread of the arts will be Adam's album. Do go and check it out. If not for that, go and check out The Whale, because it looks very cool. So as much endorsement I'm giving there. So we'll call it then. Spread the arts. Yeah, Adam album.
I will say one last thing. I can't really say an official announcement because I'm not this person. Just keep your eye on Jonathan Pineda.
Oh,
just keep me and him talk, and just keep your eye on the guy. Just keep your eye on him.
We're going to see the ultimate Life is Strange collaboration here.
I would like I said, I think you should follow Jonathan Pineda on Instagram. Keep your eye on him. I can't say official announcements or anything like that. Just keep your little peepers on Jonathan Pineda. Just say.
Interesting. But yes, that's a little tease. Either way, we're going to call it a day here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that. A lot of talk about, lots to be said, a bit of a lengthier episode as well for you. As always, if you do enjoy this, please do consider dropping us a like, subscribe, turn on notification, and comment. It helps with the channel, helps to support us as well. And also, as well, StrangeCast is available on all podcast services. You can check us out on Spotify with the video version, and then it's all available on all other podcast services with audio. But yeah, do let us know on the video version on YouTube what you thought about Life is Strange. Do you think it's a top 100 game? Do you not? Do you think we're just being really heavily biased? Let us know in the comments. Let us know where you rank it as well. It'd be interesting to hear where people think. Even if it's not even the first Life is Strange, I don't think we talked about that in that part of the segment. If it could be another Life is Strange, it could be Life is Strange 2 for all we know, which is obviously the greatest by far. But, either way, let us know where you'd rank any of these Life is Strange games if you put them anywhere. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. Stay tuned. In the meantime, enjoy this episode and take care of yourself. See you later, guys.
Later.